Hi, and welcome to Complete and Cast, the official podcast for complete in-box video games. But today, in episode 62, of course, we're not going to talk about video games.
No,
because
sir.
who needs that when you are two days away from the football season? And we have Brian CatScratchReader Beversluis. I pronounced that very close.
Beversluis?
Beversluis.
Yeah.
Beversluis.
Sluice.
Sluice.
Just sluice.
I just got to remember...
The I is silent, basically.
Sluice.
Yeah.
Sluice. Okay, let's restart. No, let's not restart.
No,
let's
fine.
roll with it.
Yeah, let's roll.
Anyway, welcome back, Brian. We talked a couple months ago about NFL stuff. Today we're going to put a gift wrap on pretty much 2019, heading into the 2019 season here. We are very excited. As you know, Brian is a big Panthers fan. Probably in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, the biggest one I know.
Yeah, I don't think I haven't met anybody
Do you know,
bigger. Yeah, I've met a couple in passing at GameStop and stuff, but yeah.
We have one guy who comes in wearing Panthers gear, and he seems like decently hyped, but he's like not like kind of thing. He seems decently hyped. So let's get right into this. The 2019 offseason was a whole bunch of malarkey, and we just got done with the preseason. The Pats actually played the Panthers week 3 of the preseason, and it was a game.
Yeah, it was a meaningless preseason game.
Yeah, so let's actually head into that right now. Let's just do it. Preseason, 4 weeks. First 2 weeks, starters kind of play, maybe. Third week, they play maybe a quarter or half, and then fourth week, no one plays.
Yep.
In your opinion, and I know what this answer is preseason worth it?
No, not really. I mean, like, the Rams were the best example last year where none of their starters played any snaps in the preseason. Like, the preseason is basically meant to evaluate the lower level talent you have and fill out the bottom, I don't know, fifth of your roster maybe? Like,
10, 12 spots,
maybe even if it's a good team, it's only like 2 or 3 spots, which is allegedly what the Panthers were looking at. But you always seem to have that like one team that loses a really good player in the preseason. It was almost Carolina. But all Cam did was sprain his foot, so that was good. It's just not worth it in my opinion, like especially when the NFL is trying so hard to like tailor their penalties around protecting their star players. It's like, okay, but let's throw them out there without a game plan against a team they haven't game planned for. Like, you're just asking for bad shit to happen.
Right, because these coaches are not like spending a whole ton of time creating these crazy playbooks for it. They're going to be as vanilla as possible because they don't want to give anyone any game tape, you know. And we saw that with the Pats-Panthers game. The Pats were pretty much just like, we're just going to blitz. It wasn't like any like crazy fronts. It wasn't the amoeba front they use. It was just literally like blitz 6, right?
Yeah. And
they were getting to Cam, like, because were there any backup guys in there for the O-line, or was it there?
No, it was the starters for the most part, but part of it was that they were trying to throw the ball down the field a little bit, and also Cam was holding on to the ball too long. Like, people are going to blame the offensive line, but the play that Cam got hurt on, he 100% should have thrown the ball away. Whether it was intentional grounding or not, he had every opportunity to throw that ball away and just live another down, especially for the regular season. So it wasn't like they did anything egregious. They just blitzed, and the offensive line picked it up, and, what does it matter if Cam Newton throws a touchdown in a preseason game?
Yeah, it does not matter.
Like,
yeah.
So...
yeah, and that particular play wasn't anything fancy. They didn't like hit him late or any nonsense. It was just he got hit weird, and it just is what it is.
Yeah, thankfully it wasn't anything worse than it was. Allegedly, he's going to be ready for week 1 without an issue, but you just want to avoid those kind of hits in the preseason, and that's kind of on Cam to even have absorbed that hit, because he should have just thrown it away and moved on.
Especially in the preseason, you just throw it away. If you're like, coach, you got to put me out. All right, I'm throwing this away.
There are teams that win all 4 of their preseason games and then don't win more than 2 or 3 regular season games. It's like, it doesn't matter how he does. Like,
I mean, infamously, the 08 Lions went 4-0 in the preseason.
Yep.
I think, and don't quote me on this, I think the Pats in 07 went 0-4. Don't quote me, but I kind of remember seeing that being a thing. It doesn't matter. Like, it just preseason record doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
It only proves that your backups are better than their backups, which has its own merit, which means you have good, roster strength.
That's only if you're playing like your second string against their second string too. Which there are times where you got third and fourth and fifth stringers out there against.
You generally see it in the first half of, I want to say, the first 3 games, maybe the first quarter or the first half.
Yeah.
But then once you get to the point where like Like, they just played the Giants last week, the Pats, and, like, I can't even name the quarterback that came in after Daniel Jones. And, like, he was lighting it up, but I'm like, oh, okay. Like, and he was, like, immediately cut. Isn't that, like, so... I do like the preseason for one thing, and that's preseason game 4, because I feel like it is, like... These guys know. They have to know. These bottom guys, they know, like, I'm getting cut, right?
Oh, yeah.
But they can go out there, like, one last time. It's like, you get with the boys one last time and you go out. And I think it's kind of cool. You, like, every team has a player where you're like, all of a sudden, you know, week 3 and 4 in the preseason, they light it up. And you know they're going to get cut, but they light it up. And you're just like, yeah, go that guy.
Good for that guy.
Yeah. And he's going to, you know, get a job in, like, insurance or whatever. Like, maybe he'll try a couple more times or go on the practice squad or whatever. But eventually he'll get in another job. But it's like... You can always be like, you know, I know it's not much, but I wore number 15 for the Pats in the preseason. Like, that's something, you know what I mean? Like, I made the initial 90-man roster, which is more than a lot of people can say.
Yeah, it's people don't realize just how rare that is. Like, even with the number of players, 32 teams with 90-man rosters, there's still, you know, thousands of people who could probably warrant being on an NFL roster in that 90-man group. So
I always feel bad, particularly for any running back ever. That's why when, like, Zeke wants to get paid and Melvin Gordon wants to get paid, I'm like, just pay them or let them go. Because, like, there's... I always think about, like, I'll watch, like, old, summaries on YouTube of, like, this game from 2016, and it'll be like, oh, look, it's Spencer Ware or Charkandrick West or just some random, like, running back, and I'm like, oh, let me look him up on Wiki. Oh, he hasn't played in 2 years, and he's done, you know? And it's just like that. It's just like that, you know? So, especially with that. Okay, so, going into the preseason a little bit more, back maybe 10 years ago, they used to have, you know, 2-a-day practices pretty much all throughout the summer. You know, you would go to a practice, and then there would be a break, and you would have another practice. And with the CBA signed in, I want to say, 08-ish? 2010, that pretty much went away to the point where, like, this sounds maybe like a lot, but, like, the overall practices you're going to have from the time training camp starts to, like, the regular season is, like, I want to say, like, 25 or 30. Like, it's nothing. And, like, you might go, oh, 30 practices. And it's like, yeah, that's you having the first practice is you having 90 guys and being like, let's get in shape. You know what I mean? So, like, it really isn't that much. And because of that, and because of the fact that a lot of these players aren't playing in the preseason at all, you always get this kind of feeling that the first couple weeks of the regular season are kind of preseason anyway.
They're ugly games usually.
Yeah. It's weird for a team to come out and just be clicking. Belichick always says he doesn't know what his team is till November, and I feel like that might be, like, a little late. Like, that's, like, week, like, 11 or 12, but I would definitely say that it's week 6 or 7 when you would know, like, what kind of team you have.
Right.
Barring injuries and stuff like that, but...
Yeah, I mean, like, every year, I can definitely say the first, like, 4 games of the season, the Panthers are not... They don't look at all like the team they might look like in November if they're, you know, 100% healthy. So, like... A good example was the one year when they played the Jaguars, like that when they went to the Super Bowl, and they played the Jaguars week 1, super close game, and then the Panthers ended up going 15-1 with, like, one of the best offenses in the league and one of the best defenses in the league, and the Jaguars were the Jaguars,
right?
That we mostly know and love.
Mostly know,
yeah. And that's just how it goes because you've got NFL talent on both sides of the ball, all of which are still trying to acclimate to their teammates. So, yeah, I mean, like. I get why the players wanted less practice because you're less prone to injury, but at the same time, like, they're still going to get beat up and stuff during the season, so, like...
I mean, everyone always says, I've never been on, like, a tackle football team, but everyone always says that the one thing you can't simulate is getting hit.
No,
like, you can do everything else, but you can't simulate it, and that's why you see a lot of these really early season just nonsense injuries, because it's like... It would have... Now, the question becomes chicken or the egg. Would it have happened in training camp anyway? Or is it going to happen in week 1?
Right.
You know? But, like, you see a lot of those injuries because they're just not getting hit much. And what do you do about it? You know? Would you extend the regular season to 18 games if it meant the preseason was only 2 games?
It's tough because, like, I think the NFL players play enough as it is and, like, 2 games of regular season football, sure, but every extra game that your starters play, they're more likely to suffer not even just an injury, but a really bad one, too.
Right.
Like, and the playoffs matter, so like I wouldn't want to like reduce the playoffs, but like the preseason, at least the teams have the option of not playing their players, where because those games don't matter. Where like those extra 2 games you might see over the course of the league, because that's 64 extra. That's not 30. That's 32. 64 extra games being played.
Right.
So
no, 32.
32
16,
extra.
16 each week.
Math
yeah.
is difficult. 32 extra games being played, and for even being conservative, let's say an injury happens like 2 of those games to a significant starter, that changes the entire course of the playoffs.
Yeah.
So
I saw the dumbest take I've ever seen on a Pro Football Talk when the comment went, which are, I don't know if you visit Pro Football Talk.
Sometimes.
Some of those comments are pretty bad. They're just like, they're literally just all boomers. Like everything that like anybody does, it's just like, back in my day. Anyway, so someone was saying that for the 18-game season, they were like, they should do it where they have an 18-game season, but you max out at 16 games for each player. And I know, I'm like, so like you're starting, like Cam could only play 16 games. So when you play like a lollipop like team, the Bills on the at home or whatever, right? You're just like, okay, well Cam can't play. And I'm like, I just wanted to mention that on here because it was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. Like I can't imagine the CBA would be like, yeah, actually, yeah, that's fine. Let's do that.
Yeah.
So overall, preseason kind of. It's football, so it counts for something, but, I mean, is it worth the reps that you get, or would you just be like Sean McVay and put them just out there? Just week 1, just put them out there.
I think that there's certain players where you could put them out there. Like, the thing for me, like, of all things that can happen to an NFL team, losing your quarterback is one of the quickest ways for your season to be done.
I think it is the quickest.
Yeah, because the Panthers could lose Luke Kuechly and they might still field a good defense. Like, he's a great player, but he's also not the engine for the defense. Like, so I think the preseason is good for like getting rookies involved and like letting them get some snaps and stuff. But for your like franchise quarterback, where it's like he's gonna start, we know what he's got with him, the known quantity type players. It's like, come on, man. Like, offensive lines I get because they take time to like meld and mesh and get some chemistry going because it's 5 different guys who all have to be on the same page. But it's like, your quarterback's not going to forget how to throw a football week 1. Like, I think that like the preseason's a good thing, and like you should get those guys out there who don't matter. Like, I liked what Carolina did in the preseason with their defense because they had Shaq Thompson and Luke Kuechly, their 2 linebackers who were both very good. They didn't play a single snap. I think they should have done that with Cam Newton because, like, you know what you got with them. They're both great linebackers. Like, Cam's a great quarterback. Where, like, I can see, like, having Curtis Samuel out there when he's, like, hasn't really played a whole lot. He hasn't been, like a starting wide receiver for Carolina for a whole season. Or your rookie offensive tackles or, those kind of players. But, like, Greg Olsen coming off 2 broken feet. Christian McCaffrey, you know what he's got. Like, those are the kind of players I would leave off. But I think, like, the preseason is good for at least getting some good snaps on some of these guys.
I'm very interested to see what the CBA is like. I think it's in 2020.
Yeah.
Just where they're going to go with this because there's going to be some contention. So let's talk about the biggest, before we get into the actual regular season, the biggest thing that happened in the last couple weeks, which was, and it's beating a dead horse at this point, so let's take a different look at it. Andrew Luck's retirement, which really was out of nowhere. Like, I was like sitting on my couch playing a game and my phone buzzed and it was like, Andrew Luck retired. And you can look at it and, like, it's not like, it's completely out of left field because, like, there were warning signs, like, earlier this offseason where they were like, dude, I gotta admit, I hate the Colts. I like Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
But I hate the Colts. And I hate Jim Irsay. I always liked Chuck Pagano and Frank Reich. Like, their coaches are just, like, stuck in a crappy city and a crappy team. Right, I hated Ryan Grigson, although I loved him because he made the Colts worse.
Right.
Anyway, so earlier this offseason, all the higher-ups on the Colts were like, oh yeah, Andrew Luck's, blank injury is getting better, and they always changed it.
Yeah.
Did you notice that? It was weird. It was like, his ankle's fine, and people were like, what? It was, wait, it's his ankle? And they're like, no, his thigh's okay. And it's like, what?
NFL teams tend to be very,
you don't have to put injury reports out. I get it, but the fact that they just kept mentioning different things, I'm like, damn, this dude must really be hurt.
Yeah,
like,
he's been beat up a lot. So I believe he was pressured an average of 16 times a game, which is more than anybody at all at quarterback.
Right. And he's not the kind of guy that hangs on to the ball forever either. You know?
He's smart.
The Texans O-line gets a lot of crap, and they're not a great O-line. And people always say, oh, Deshaun Watson was sacked 62 times last year, which I think is actually the number. Most in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
And, on face value, you look at that and you go, oh, well, the Texans O-line is bad. It's like, watch the tape. Some of them, are they O-line sacks? Absolutely. Some of them, are they Deshaun just holding onto the ball way too long? Oh, yeah. Same with Dak Prescott. Literally 80% of Dak's sacks are just because we're just sitting there, we're like, throw the ball. Throw it. Throw it, Throw it away. Throw it in the stands, He just has the propensity for that. So I wanted to... There is... O-line play is weird because sometimes they get credited with these sacks where just I held them at bay for 8 seconds. Yeah. That doesn't sound like much, but when, Aaron Donald's running at you and you hold him off for 7 seconds, this is pretty damn good.
Yeah.
It's pretty damn good.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. There's plays where the offensive line isn't supposed to block that long. The ball's supposed to come out way before that. So they might get credited for the sack, but the offensive lineman's like, well, I was only supposed to block him for 4 seconds.
Yeah.
Or Cam Newton's really bad with this. He drops back too far with his depth, and then the offensive tackle gets beat off the outside, and it's so he pushes him to push him outside where Cam Newton can step up in the pocket, and all of a sudden the guy's in Cam Newton's lap, and it's it looks like it's the offensive tackle's fault, but there's a pocket they're supposed to maintain. It's not just stonewalling the guy into the ground. That's not how the offensive line works.
That's why quarterback is just so important. Doing something like taking too many steps, it sounds so stupid, but the play is designed to for these edge defenders coming in and almost like a circle. It's designed to push them out in the circle.
Yeah.
And if you move 2 steps back, that's where you're pushing them.
Yeah.
Right? So it's sack on the left tackle. It's sack on the quarterback. You know what I mean? So, his retirement, of course, was shocking. I mean, it just is. And Colts fans were booing him, and there was all this nonsense.
Was so shitty.
Yeah. And, he didn't want it to, get out at that point. I will say the highlight of my offseason was seeing Jim Irsay sitting behind Andrew Luck, just looking like someone took their ball and ran home, he just was so despondent, and just it was amazing. I really dislike Jim Irsay. I think he's pretty scummy, to be completely honest with you.
From what I understood, everyone was pretty much already aware that Luck was going to retire at that point. The players,
right.
Or at least Jim Irsay was. But what got me about all that was after Adam Schefter reported it on Twitter during a preseason game where Andrew Luck's just sitting on the sideline, none the wiser to what everyone knows. After all that, after he gets booed in his own stadium on what could potentially be the last time he steps on the stadium as a player, it's Adam Schefter has the nerve to then to tweet afterwards and be like, oh, he planned to announce his retirement later, but his timetable was moved up. It's you did that. You're... I get you're doing your job, but you're the one who did that. Don't tweet that. Let one of your other people tweet that.
I mean, that's a whole thing of... I mean, you're in the industry to a point as well, and it's what if you get this juicy info?
Oh, I don't fault Schefter at all for sharing that, because if it wasn't him, it'd be Jeff Darlington or the next NFL jerk-off. He's not at fault for sharing it. It's just that follow-up tweet was a little much. It's you did that, buddy. That was your fault. Maybe tell one of your other cohorts to tweet that instead, and you retweet it. It's the same effect.
So, speaking of Andrew Luck, obviously very shocking retirement. Really quick, most shocking retirements in NFL history. I'll let you go with the first one. I think we're going to name the exact same 3. I have a feeling.
Most shocking retirements.
Would you like me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'll start with Calvin Johnson.
Yeah,
I mean, he was still on the top. There's something about Detroit. He was still on the top of his game. I think it's been 3 or 4 years at this point, but he was still so good that people, every year, 2 years later after he retired, people were still like, hey, you coming back? You coming back? I mean, and literally, he could have, kind of thing. It's almost like when T.O. would say, yo, I won't come back, but, he literally could. So Calvin Johnson's was just out of left field, and I never knew how bad Detroit handled that, by the way. They were they were like, yeah, well, you've been like the cornerstone of our franchise, of our crappy franchise for like 8 years, but like we want that signing bonus back, and that's just like so bogus.
Yeah, that they went after his signing bonus, and it's like, come on, man, like
he gave everything for that team. He's not like, and he wasn't like, I request a trade or I'm gonna hold out. Like he did his stuff. He was a model citizen.
Like, I'm done. Yeah. Which is his right. Yeah, I mean. So this one's a little different. I know of probably the other two you're going to mention, but Chris Borland, do you remember him?
I actually do not.
So he was a rookie linebacker for the San Francisco 49ers and played at like a Pro Bowl level. This
Are we talking only a couple years ago?
Yeah, it wasn't long ago. It was like 2012 or something like that.
Didn't he... Isn't he the one that's trying to come back now?
No.
Oh, okay.
You're thinking of Rolando McClain, and he didn't retire. He was forced out of the league because he's an idiot.
Oh, okay, okay.
No, Chris Borland was a San Francisco 49ers linebacker, played his rookie year, did really well.
That's when everyone was retiring. When the team was like Chip Kelly and falling apart.
A bunch of players were
just
retiring for them.
Wow.
Yeah, but he was shocking because he was a rookie. He didn't really have like an injury during the season. Like he was playing at a high level. Everyone expected him to come in and like replace Navarro Bowman and Patrick Willis, and then he just up and retired in the offseason. It was crazy.
And he was just like, I'm not hurt, and I don't want to get hurt. He just
was like, I don't. Yeah, that was basically it. He was just like, I am taking my health into consideration. I don't want to continue doing this. Like it was the first real like player I've seen in a long time who like started in the league, played like a couple years, and it's like, you know what, I can't do this, or I'm gonna suffer consequences later in life. So that one was like the biggest one I can remember in a long time where it shocked me.
I forgot about that. Half that team retired, and there was like the funniest offseason ever.
That was such a nuts offseason.
This one didn't happen at the same time, although it's the same team. Patrick Willis, he was like 28. I looked it up the other day and was like Luke Kuechly level good, and just
oh my god,
and just like I'm done. And it's just so it's so weird. We talked about that earlier, and of course the last one I'm going to mention is
Gronk.
Oh, I was actually going to say Barry Sanders.
Oh, Barry Sanders, too.
He was still on the top of my game. Gronk's wasn't surprising in that, like, after the Eagles Super Bowl, like, it was already out there, like, hey, apparently, according to him, if they would have won that Eagles Super Bowl, he just would have retired. So, I mean, the world would be a better place if they won that game. I think we can all agree. But, Gronk wouldn't have been around. But, like, if you watch the Pats very closely, like, he was still dominant as a blocker, but he was...
falling off.
The interesting thing is he's been out of the league for a couple months now, and like now he's getting to the point where he's like, I'm healthy for the first time in 8 years, and like being weirdly like yeah, I could go again kind of thing.
I don't know. He lost a lot of weight.
He did lose a lot of weight, but he keeps saying that like, dude, there's this one picture of him like making a milkshake or a smoothie in his kitchen, and he looks like a dude. Yeah. Like, you know how Gronk is like Gronk?
Yeah.
He looks like a dude. Like you just see a dude walk into like Walmart and you're like, hey, like he looks like a dude. He looks normal. Like it's crazy.
Not to stay on Gronk too long, but I caught a clip.
We can stay on Gronk.
I caught a clip over the weekend of him talking about this CBD oil company that he's been working with. Yes. And basically he was talking about like pain management and how he thinks the NFL and like all these other professional organizations should maybe change their stance on like CBD oil and marijuana. And a lot of what he said, like, kind of mirrored what Andrew Luck was saying, like, word for word. Like, he was like, I was hurt all the time. I was like, I wasn't loving the game anymore. And he was like, and this kind of stuff, like, I feel healthy for the first time in so long. And it's, like, good for pain management. And I was just sitting there like, this sounds like Andrew Luck, man. Like, yeah. It's crazy. Like, people don't realize what these guys deal with.
Well, and if you think about it, not only are they just getting beat to hell every week,
for real.
But then the NFL is like, whoa, don't take that. Whoa, don't take that. Whoa, don't take that. And you're like some of these players, like, I still feel like some of these suspensions that get handed out are like literally, I feel like it's probably 50-50, where some of them are like, oh, I honestly didn't know, because like they'll be like, oh, you tested for a banned substance. That banned substance isn't steroids. It's not like Mark McGuire, like injecting it straight in. Some of it's just like certain things, or even Edelman didn't test positive. He tested like diluted or whatever they call that, you know, where it's just like, well, we can't prove it, but it's like not normal, and it's like, what? So these guys get like beat to hell, and they're like, oh, well, even if it's legal in the state you are, you can't smoke pot, and you can't do the CBD oil and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, if you went to the doctor and was like, yeah, I'm in pain all the time because of this, you know what they would prescribe you? friggin' pot.
Yeah, probably.
Or like something like that.
Yeah.
But then like the same thing you would go to the doctor for, the NFL's like, nah, you can't do that. Sorry, you're suspended 4 games. And it's like, dude, I feel like if I hope something happens with the CBA, the next collective bargaining agreement, because that would, I feel like it would make everything easier for the players, just in general, if they were just like, all right, well, we're not going to allow everything, but, you know, CBDOs and stuff like that, like...
Stuff for pain management, yeah, and, like, that kind of stuff is better than, like, opioids. Yeah. Like, it's not going to cause a crippling addiction.
No.
Like, so...
And we don't need to get into that whole thing, but, like, it is, like, I feel like them taking their foot off the, you know, I guess their foot on the gas a little bit would be pretty nice for that.
Yeah, I agree.
So, my question as far as Andrew Luck is concerned, he's a little younger than me. I think he's the same age as you. He's like 29, 28, something like that.
Yeah, he's a year older
than
me.
So, his entire life, forever, has been football.
Yep.
From a kid, I mean, I think his dad played football or was a coach of a football.
Yeah, he was a football player.
Yeah, okay, right. So every single thing in his entire life's been football. Coming up, he's always been number one. And to his credit, unlike a lot of these players that get big heads, never did, right?
Yeah.
Just always was number one Stanford, number one, you know, Colts. Now all of a sudden he doesn't have football.
Yeah.
Then you're not 58, you're not 68, where you're like, I'm just going to move to Florida and whatever. You're 28.
Yep.
And now, he's not the only player to ever retire at 28, but I feel like his is a little more like, his life was football. What do you do? I mean, it's a big question, but where do you go?
I don't know. Like, I feel like he's just kind of burnt out on football because he's experienced all the negative aspects of playing football and not enough of the positives over the last 3 years. I almost just feel like he's just going to, like, do everything that you would think a retired NFL player in good health would do, like travel the globe, go open his own business.
Yeah, I was gonna say start a car dealership,
mess around, like do make some weird investments, like start a fishing YouTube channel. Like this all sounds like stuff he would do. Like
what did Drew Brees do?
That
diamond
pyramid
thing?
scheme. He was part of the diamond thing where he was investing in jewelry and. If you want to invest, dude, just fucking invest. Like, but then there was that whole Advocare pyramid scheme stuff that he got involved with, and that was funny. That was super funny too. I think like Andrew Luck is just gonna be like your run of the mill guy, where he's just gonna like go travel, like do what any of us would do at his age if we had that much money, and just go live our lives. Like. I think that he lost his passion for football before he retired, so it's not as much about him like no longer having football as him being ridden of it, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's just tough, like, because I know that he somewhere in there he's gonna miss football like next year.
Dude, I'm so happy over the past 5 years or so that Brady has like gotten into other business ventures. He's got the TB12 and all that because like he's one of those guys. I know he's got a great life with his wife and his kids and whatever, and family's important and stuff like that. And I'm not saying like, well, but like he's one of those dudes that when like he's played for so long that like when he stops, I'd be like one of those guys. I'd be like, where do I go?
Yeah.
So at least he has the other stuff going on. People ask him, do you want to coach? He's like, hell no, hell no. Because he sees how Belichick's there more than he is, and I'm sure Brady's there a lot. You know, Belichick's there even longer. So. It's pretty nuts. So the big rule change, and we probably talked about this earlier in the last episode, was to the offensive and defensive pass interference rules. Now we don't need to go over that. We know it's changed. You can review them and all that. We're going to talk about what happened and what we saw during the preseason. What was your general feelings of how these were handled so far?
It seemed like. You know, it kind of just seems like the NFL put that rule in place just to shut up the Saints fans.
I honestly feel that's the
because
case.
Like, almost every one that I saw, none of them were overturned. It almost seems like it really needs to be extremely egregious before they go off of what the field, like... Because pass interference is such a weird foul, because it's so subjective. Because you could call pass interference based on how an NFL player's head is positioned.
Right.
If they're going after the ball and they interfere with the receiver on defense, that's not considered pass interference.
Right, you can, be standing there going for the ball if you're looking at it and just bump them out of the way, and it does not matter.
It doesn't matter because you're both jockeying for the ball, where, if they are doing the same thing but looking at the receiver and not the defensive and not the ball, then all of a sudden it's pass interference. So it really just seems like they put this rule in place specifically to address those ones where the defensive back blasts the wide receiver before the ball even gets there.
But how often does that happen? Like, honestly, where they miss it? Like, usually they're more DPI happy than they are not calling it. You know, it was, yeah. So the worst one that I saw, you probably saw it, was the first week Redskins game, where there was a really egregious DPI. I think it was against the Redskins, but who cares? It was really egregious. Like, the guy didn't turn around. He like did not try for the ball at all. He ran towards the guy, kind of like stopped him, and the ball hit the defender in the head. Right, pretty egregious. So and nothing's called. So Jay Gruden throws the challenge flag, and they end up instead of calling it DPI, they end up calling it OPI.
I did see
so
that.
Instead of being like 2nd and 10, it's like, oh, yeah, 1st and 10 yards back. Like, it was one of those, you couldn't even possibly look at it and call it OPI. And they were like, okay, you know what? You're right. It should have been a penalty on you. I really hope that that's not like a thing that continues, because it was so egregious. Like, I remember just like, whoever talks about preseason week 1, but everyone was just showing this and like, this isn't like, there's some really crappy officials. Yeah. Pete Morelli is terrible and should retire. Walt Coleman did retire, and that's good. There's some good, I always like John Perry. Anyway, whatever. I forget what my point is. But some of these officials, like, they get crap because, like, they're like, oh, they didn't call this. Yeah, well, they review it in 5 frames per second in super slow-mo. And they're like, should have seen that. But, like, this is just going to cause problems. Dude.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
It's just going to cause... So, if I had to do this, I want to see what you think about this. Now, if, like, the Saints wouldn't shut the hell up until I put this rule in, this is how I would implement the rule, okay? You can review it, but only in normal speed. Yeah. You can't slow it down. Because if you slow it down to 5 frames per second and, like, there's, like, jockeying for the ball, you're gonna see something. Yeah. It's fast humans moving very fast at a ball. Yeah. You're gonna see something, right? So if you can review it in normal speed, no slowdown at all, that includes in the stadium, obviously. We've all been at stadiums. They love to show what's going to help the home team, right, on the Jumbotron. So the stadium can't slow it in slow motion. No one can show it in slow motion. If you view it in normal motion, like the Saints game would have been, because that was clearly DPI, then you call it. But if you throw the flag and it's like, I watched it, I didn't see it. Oh. If you turn it to 2 frames per second, now I can see his hand getting in there. Yeah.
No, I agree.
And, of course, that's not how they're doing it. They slow it down to... slowing it down to see if a player's feet were in, that's fine. Yeah. Right? That's the whole point of it. But, like, slowing it down to see if, like, if there's, like, a tic-tac foul with hand fighting, it's like, what are the defensive backs supposed to do? Like,
you're just making it even more difficult on them. Yeah, like, I think pass interference is such a weird penalty as it is, just because, like, number one, you can interfere with the guy as much as you want within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. Like, you can't hold him, but you can push him all you want. Like,
blame Peyton Manning. It used to be better. When they used to complain.
I think that the real time thing would be good, but like, it's sports. Like, there's gonna be those games that are decided by a penalty. We've seen them. We've all seen them. It sucks when it happens in the playoffs and your whole season on the line. But at the same time, if you let one freaking game get defined by one freaking penalty, you are not looking at the bigger picture. Yeah. Like, the Saints had every opportunity to win that game.
Would the Saints have complained as much if they scored when they got the ball first in overtime? Yeah. I don't think it would. It would just be something you forget. You know?
People would be like, Sean Payton might have been like, "Oh, that was a bad call," and then that'd be them. Yeah, like they'd go to the Super Bowl and they would have gotten wrecked by the Patriots. You know, like
that's right.
So it's just they're putting too much into it, and they're slowing down the game too much. They already have. Like, we're going to get to a point where, like, it's not... You're going to spend 5 hours on a Sunday watching a football game if this continues, so...
Yeah. I mean, non-Americans always give us so much crap that we've all seen the pie chart, right? This is the percentage where they're standing around. I still love football. Yeah. But, like, there is going to be a point where you're like, do I love football? You know, like, it's just...
I loved football. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved football until... And I'm not even one of those, like, I think the game is actually in many ways better now. Like, I try to watch, like, old games from the 80s, especially the 80s.
They were ugly.
Yeah, and, like, they were just ugly. Like, I watched the 55-10 49ers over Broncos Super Bowl, and, like, It was just even like you're like, oh, team scored 55 points, it must be beautiful. It was not beautiful.
No.
Like any random Sunday night football game nowadays, I'm gonna be honest, is better than that Super Bowl. Granted, it was a 45-point blowout, but again, when a team scores 55 points, you expect to see crazy crap happening.
Yeah.
It was just one of those. You look at the scoreboard, you're like, oh, you know. I don't know. I think the game's better now, but you gotta slow it down a little. So let me tell you something about how I think this is how my hypothesis of this OPI DPI is gonna go.
All right.
Belichick made this quote around the Super Bowl time, where in the AFC Championship game there was a clear and evident offensive pass interference against the Chiefs, where it was a pick play, like 5 yards downfield, and what's his name, the running back, the new running back, Damian Williams scores very easily on a wheel route, right? And he just keeps mentioning it. It's weird. Like, they won the game, they won the Super Bowl, but like he'll mention it once in a while about this. So my hypothesis is, when we imagine this rule being called, that it's always on some like crazy, throw downfield, oh, it's 40 yards in the air. Okay, call it. That's it. I think that the smart coaches are going to save it for when there's a long touchdown play. Say there's a pretty clear pick play that they missed, 5 yards downfield.
Yeah.
But it's a 60-yard play. Well, that's when Belichick pulls it out of his pulls the flag out and throws it and goes, yeah, 15 did a pick play 6 yards downfield, and it's going to negate that entire play. And I guarantee that's actually how it's going to be, at least like a good percentage of the time. And people don't think about that when they think about this play. They think of only like the Joe Flacco bombs, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen, because OPI is a thing as well. And Belichick hates when stuff is called on him. So that when they had training camp, he's like, this is a new rule. You got to be really careful on the pick plays.
Yeah.
I can just see, I don't know, like, what are your thoughts on that?
I've thought for a while now, the last few years, that there's going to be a correction on pick plays as it is. And yeah, I agree. I think that like this is going to be the time where coaches are going to make the NFL pay for this rule, because they're going to take these offensive plays that everybody likes to see. These are the plays that make you money. This is what people tune in for, and they're going to get ruined because of a small pick play that really may not have had a huge effect on the play, or it might have. And it's like,
but even if, like, OPI is OPI, so if it ends up being a 70-yard touchdown, but there is a pick play on the other side of the field, is that still OPI? It is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, OPI doesn't have to be with the ball, right?
Yeah. Like, they can call... I've seen them call...
They can call holding off the ball, though.
Yeah. I think that they can, but it has to be really egregious if it's not involved with the play.
But like, I definitely... And it's going to negate some big plays, and people will be like, seriously? And, like, I guarantee a well-run... I know you hate him, but Sean McVay is a pretty good coach. No, I'm sorry. Sean Payton's a good coach. Like, he or Belichick or whatever is going to be like, okay, cool. There was OPI. Oh, take away that 70-yard play. Thanks. See ya, it's going to be bad.
Oh, this rule is either going to be crazy underutilized and have a lot of plays where they don't get called at all that way. And people are going to be like, well, why do we have this rule? Or we're going to have plays like that, where it's like, we're going to have plays that really you could walk away from the game and feel like, I can see why that wasn't called, and have it called now.
Right.
So
it could be like the roughing the passer from last year, where the first 3 weeks, remember the first 3 weeks was like every hit was like roughing the passer.
Who was the guy from Miami tore his ACL trying not to fall on the quarterback a certain way?
Yeah. And then, but then after that, after everyone was so mad, they're like, we're not calling this anymore. Like, barely at all. Remember, it was like the first 3 weeks, it was like everything.
It had to be a blow to the head, or like a definitely hit on the quarterback.
Yeah, it could be like this, where it's like, oh, we're gonna, every challenge we're gonna overturn. Then it's like, well, we don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
I could definitely see that. So, let's head over really quickly to the current 29 NFL season. Let's talk really quickly about your Panthers. How you feeling?
Oh, this team is weird.
It is an odd year, so...
It is an odd year. This is a team I could see going 4-12 or 12-4. It's so weird. Like, they have more talent on the offensive side of the ball than they've had since probably Cam Newton's rookie year. The offensive line looks good, but it's also, like, there's a lot of new pieces. Like, Matt Paradis is their center after Ryan Khalil was their center for so long. They have Darrell Williams, who's a career right tackle, coming off torn ACL and MCL last year. He's playing left tackle because their rookie offensive tackle they drafted in the second round who wasn't playing well in the preseason anyway. He's in the concussion protocol. Like, they still have McCaffrey. Greg Olson's allegedly 100% healthy, and he says that he hasn't felt this good about his foot since before he broke it. DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, my man, training camp MVP. Defense looks good, but it's also a brand new 3-4 defense that I haven't seen from Ron since he was coaching in San Diego. Like, it's a tough division. They have the talent. Last year they went 6-2 with a worse team until Cam Newton's arm kind of fell off. So it's like, it's really tough. And they start the season off against the Rams, and it's like, oh god, I don't know. Like, that first game cuts at the tempo.
By the way, when we did our pick'ems, that was the second hardest game for me to pick. I sat there for a while. I think I actually picked the Panthers.
It is a home game for the Panthers, which is
and that was
favorite.
the reason.
Yeah.
That, and not to get too off subject, but Vikings at home against the Falcons was really hard to pick.
Yeah.
I don't trust Kirk Cousins at all, but I trust all other 52 members of the team. Well, 51, because I don't trust their kicker.
Yeah.
Whoever
the hell their kicker ends up being. Yeah.
Is it Bailey? Whatever.
Yeah, it's Dan Bailey.
Yep. So generally you feel...
If you put a gun to my head right now and ask me to predict the season, I'd say 9-7.
Okay.
Only because Cam seems to be 100% healthy, minus the sprained foot. They've surrounded him with weapons that have only progressed over time. Like, they've invested a lot in the offense over the last few years. Like, Christian McCaffrey, first round, Curtis Samuel, second round, DJ Moore, first round. They've got a lot of talent around him, and even if Greg Olson doesn't really return to form, even if he's just a glorified red zone threat like a Jason Witten at the end of his career, he'll still contribute. Like, offensively, this could be a really good team, and defensively, they could be really good because they have a lot of speed, and they're much younger than they were last year. So it's just tough because, like, there's so much. The Panthers are such a streaky team. Like, they could start off the season, beat the Rams, and again go 6-2 and be a playoff contender, and then you got to look at how they attack the rest of the season. They could also start the first 4 games off 0-4 and then bounce back and end up going like 12-3 or something like that, or 12-4 or something like that, or like 10-6. So it's hard for me to predict. And this is the year. Like, last year I was really confident, and they made me feel confident up until Cam Newton had his unfortunate injury to his shoulder. The season before that I wasn't super confident, but they ended up making the playoffs. Like, and this year I'm not even really like unconfident or confident. I'm just like, I don't know what the heck to expect.
It pretty much all comes down to Cam's shoulder.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it, right? I mean, that's just...
And his shoulder seems to be healthy. So, like,
who's their backup?
Kyle Allen is considered the primary backup,
right,
and they did draft Will Grier in the third round.
Doesn't matter. Got it.
Yeah, without Cam, they're screwed.
Yeah, yeah.
Will Grier might be good in the next, like, 2 or 3 seasons, but he is not ready right now if he needs to come in. So,
I mean, it's the same for Brady. His backup Stidham's like, would he not lose the game? Maybe. Was he going to win you a game? No.
Yeah.
For the Pats, I'm going to make this really short. I'm pretty excited for their defense for first time since 2014, maybe, when they had Browner and Revis. But that was mostly because they had Browner and Revis.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, their D-line, whatever. Oh, their safeties, whatever. I mean, they've always been good. But, like, I think this defense is going to be awesome. Like, I think this defense is going to be top 10 points and yards. Now, they were top 10 points last year. They were 7th, but they were like, you know how they are. They were like 25th in yards.
Yeah.
I think that... Oh, and Gerard Mayo coming back and essentially being
coach.
the DC. Oh, my God. Like, that's bueno. Like, and Troy Brown being around as, like, he's not like a coach, but he's there and he's coaching. Yeah. Oh, my God. Like, I gotta be honest, I don't even care about this. Like, this offense is fine. Like, I'm glad to see Josh Gordon back. I think Demaryius Thomas will be... he's not going to be 2013 Demaryius Thomas, but I think he'll be good enough and serviceable enough that they're like, okay,
Yeah.
But I don't care. I don't care about their offense at all. Like, this defense, barring injuries, is like, I'm so excited. Like, their linebacking core is the best that I personally ever remember, with Hightower and Kyle Van Noy. Kyle Van who, right? But he's, like, been great. Juwan Bentley, he's a second-year guy who played awesome until he hurt himself last year. Again, it all comes down to injuries.
Yeah.
But just, I look at their defense, and, like, their only, like, big weakness, you could say, is their D-line. But when... Except for, like, Richard Seymour or some of those really early teams, like 01, 02, 03 or whatever, when has their D-line ever been that great,
Yeah.
And is anyone as good as Richard Seymour? No. But including Michael Bennett, is everyone at least serviceable enough? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And... there's such a thing as coverage sacks, and I feel we'll be seeing a lot of those this year.
Yeah.
Chicken and the egg, of course, is secondary or D-line more important? A lot of people, and of course, NFL teams usually say D-line's more important because you look at the contracts that are given out to Aaron Donald and whatever, but if you have a good enough secondary, it don't matter, have fun. So, oh my god, I'm so excited for this defense. They could, score 21 points a game, and I don't care. Brady will still be Brady, I feel, for at least another year or two, and I just hope they run the ball literally 50% of the time. Quite honestly, they have so many damn running backs.
They do.
Rex Burkhead is your third guy, and he literally is the one who iced the freaking AFC Championship game and the Super Bowl. And people going into training camp were like, just cut Rex Burkhead. I'm like, he scored the last 3 touchdowns in the AFC Championship game. Come on. I understand running backs are like, oh, you can just get rid of them, but I'm like, you have 3 good ones, so when Michelle starts getting tired legs in the third, you put a fresh guy. They put Rex Burkhead out fresh in the 4th quarter against a tired defense, and Rex is a better than average running back, and he's just killing them. So I'm so excited for this team. We'll give our records and stuff like that later. So for your Panthers, what is a game that they will win when they should lose and lose when they should win?
So my pick for the game that they should win, that they're going to win when they should lose, is actually going to be the Rams.
The first one. I could see it.
Yeah.
I could see it.
Because it's week 1.
They're coming off the Super Bowl loss.
It's not just that, too. There is no film of, what this defense is doing out there right now. They've been a strict 4-3 for so many years. Ron Rivera introduced some wrinkles towards the end of the year last year when their defense sucked. Now they got this fast dude, Brian Burns, who is as advertised as an outside linebacker. They're taking all these. They have Gerald McCoy and K'Wan Short and Dontari Poe on the defensive line.
They got McCoy.
Yeah, and they got Mario Addison, who's been good for 10 sacks a season. He's He's tied for 4th over the last 3 or 4 years in number of sacks per season.
Do you know what? You just reminded me of. It's so funny in 10 years, and again, 10 years in the NFL is an eternity. How devalued a big fat nose tackle is.
Yeah.
A Vince Wilfork.
Snacks Williams?
Yeah.
Or Snacks Harrison?
Snacks Harrison.
Yeah.
They still exist, but a lot of teams are just oh, we'll just get that fat guy. It doesn't matter. There's no Vince Wilforks. There's no... Aaron Donald's a D tackle.
Yeah,
does he look like a D tackle?
No, he's super athletic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird, and it's not teams run a little bit less, but it's not they don't do that kind of stuff, but it's it's so devalued, you know?
Star Lotulelei was 10 years ago, he probably would have been one of the highest paid defensive linemen in the NFL, and he's a nose tackle now for the Bills, and he's nobody thinks of him, but he changes the way that offenses have to game plan for the Bills defense. So it's they have that monstrous defensive line with really fast athletic defensive ends and outside linebackers. They're playing a 3-4 that no one's really seen Ron Rivera do. Their secondary is probably the best they've had in a long time, with James Bradbury returning, Dante Jackson returning, Eric Reed returning. They signed Trey Boston off the streets. This is all around, on paper, a very good defense. So I could see them coming out and wrecking the Rams just because the Rams don't know what they're really game planning for right now. The game that I think that they should win and will probably lose is to the 49ers.
Okay.
Because Kyle Shanahan...
I'm not high on the 49ers, but that doesn't mean they're not going to win some
Kyle
games.
Shanahan's offense with the Falcons knew how to beat this defense senseless. Okay. And I think they're gonna hit them with a lot of the same stuff, the short yardage passes, manufacturing touches for their running backs, basically putting a lot of the game on Luke Kuechly and Shaq Thompson making tackles one-on-one against really talented running backs and stuff like that. And I just think that no matter how good or bad the 49ers are this year, I think that that's the game that I have pegged for. It's going to be tougher.
Where is it?
I believe it's in San Francisco.
Okay, so that makes it even tougher.
Yeah. Yep, at 49ers. Okay, week 8.
At 49ers.
Yep.
Oh, and it's the middle of the season too.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So in terms of the Pats, I think a game that they will. With the Pats, it's a little bit weird because they are favored in every game except for the Eagles game so far.
Yeah,
I know. So I think the game that they will lose when they should win is either at Ravens or at Texans. They're both in the middle of the season, and Although the Pats always beat the Texans, I feel like that's a game that like, we could see that kind of thing. And the Ravens are meme enough with Lameme himself that I could just see some weirdness happening there. And it's the middle of the season where they're not pushing to the high gear or anything like that. The game that they will win when they should lose, actually, is going to be the Eagles game. Partially because I would put odds right now. Come email me and we'll set it up of Wentz not playing that game.
Yeah.
I just got this weird. I don't know. Like I don't wish injury on anyone for any reason. I don't. Right. But like I just got this weird feeling. Like everyone's so high on the Eagles. There was Pro Football Talk. 5 of their 7 people picked the Eagles to at least get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And many of them had them beating the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So I think that game will be a little bit better than people think. Also, I think the game that people think is going to be very close, but they're going to be very disappointed when it's not, is Browns at Pats.
Oh, yeah.
Pats are going to steamroll them.
They're going to get mauled.
10 points.
Yeah.
10 points at least. If the betting line for that comes out and it's less than a touchdown, consider me on board.
Yeah.
And then the next week, the Cowboys roll in and... Give me some of that. Okay,
that Dallas, yeah.
Yeah, I want to see Dak Rain Dakota Prescott. I want to see him go against this amoeba front and Belichick's defense. I will be watching that game and enjoying it.
Oh, I'm sure.
I watch every game, but I'll be enjoying that especially.
Yeah.
So, what is the game that you're most looking forward to that it's not a Panthers game?
I'm looking forward to the Dallas Cowboys playing the New Orleans Saints because they're two of the most overhyped teams in the NFL right now.
However, last year's Cowboys-Saints game was pretty good.
I know it'll be a good game, but I think that people are gonna have that game like on their schedule. Like this is two of the top teams in the NFC duking it out, and by the time that game rolls around, they're gonna be like, maybe not so good now. Like,
yeah.
Drew Brees has to fall off sometime.
That's
I think
the problem.
Seeing it soon.
When you look at a game for like week 16, you might as well be talking about two different teams from where they're sitting now to then. I mean, it just is what even good teams like the Pats will be 12-4, and by the end of the season, 15 of their roster spaces are 10 or 15, whatever, are changed. They're so different. And it depends on how they're playing, too. Which, by the way, let me go into mine real quick, which I think is going to be Chiefs at Bears, Week 16. That's a late one, and we'll probably... I have the Bears fighting for their playoff lives this year. Everyone has them penciled in, and I just don't feel it as much.
They're still in a division with the Vikings and the Packers, with Aaron Rodgers.
I was actually going to say earlier, you said the NFC South was a tough division. I would actually say it's... I thought about this for a little bit. I think it's the second toughest behind the NFC North. Because even the Lions... Because it actually came down to the fact that I think the Lions are more competent than the Bucs, which I know is weird. Yeah. But however, this year I feel more confident in the Bucs clearly than I used to, and it's not because of Winston, it's not because of anyone, it's because of Bruce Arians. Right. I feel like he can at least whip them into 7-9 shape kind of thing. Yeah, and
they have the weapons to make Jameis Winston successful, so I agree there. But I mean, people shit on Matthew Stafford, but he's a good quarterback, and anytime you have a good quarterback, you have a chance.
Yeah, so, no, that is true. And they, that's one of those teams they could easily be 6-10 or 9-7, and you go, okay, yeah, I see that. The only this Vikings team, man, if it had anyone else, I'm like the biggest for no reason. Like, I have no affinity to the Vikings or the Redskins, but I'm the biggest Kirk Cousins hater in the world. Like, I'm just like
he's just overhyped. Like, he's the
what's his record against winning teams? It's like
it's sub 500.
No, it's literally like 5-30.
Oh,
like it's crazy, dude. I'll try to find it later and send it to you. It is insanely low. Like, you would go, oh, it's probably like 15-18. It's like 3-20, 3-30. It's crazy low. And I'm just
see that.
When dude, last year, I mean, I can't imagine how Vikings fans felt because all that they had to do was beat the Bears, who weren't really, I don't want to say they weren't trying because they were playing their starters in week 17, but they weren't doing some crazy, whatever, because the way it worked out is if the Vikings won, they would just turn around and go to Soldier Field and play against the Bears. So the Bears weren't like, let's give you all our game plan, right?
Yeah.
And they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It wasn't even close, actually. It was like a 10-14 point game, you know? Oh, God, dude. Like, Kirk Cousins, man. $84 million. Like, really? And that's not over 10 years. That's over 3 years.
Yep.
God, dude.
God.
I don't have this one written down, but so we always talk about this, that there's 12 teams that make the playoffs, and generally you see 2 to 3 in each conference not make it, which I'm seeing some people procrastinate that it's going to be like all 6 of the teams from the NFC that made it last year making it. I'm like, no. Like, it's going to be 3 or 4, like, guaranteed.
Yeah.
What is the team that you think is going to have the biggest fall, and why is it the Saints? Can I answer that for you?
Go ahead. Yeah.
And also, I feel that way as well, actually. Yeah. It's not even because of Drew Brees. It's just unless you're the Pats, you just can't keep it up for that long.
No.
You just can't. And eventually you're going to have a year, like after the Panthers' 15-1 year, where just everything doesn't work. Nothing works. Everyone gets hurt. There's all this nonsense, right? Every game that you would have won by 3 points, you lose by 3 points.
Yep, it's a regression to the
It just is. It just is what it is. And I can definitely see the Saints being that.
So part of the problem, like last year, that people started to notice a lot, like later in the season, is that Drew Brees is really only looking for 2 guys, Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara. That's not hard to game plan for when you realize that an offense is so heavily dependent on those 2 guys. Jared Cook is like their big like off-season signing, but like this isn't the same Drew Brees who can throw for 5,000 yards this year. He's not that player anymore. We already saw him regress from that. We saw it in the NFC Championship game. Like, he's just not good enough to carry this team anymore. I think they could still make the playoffs, and I think they'll very much be in contention for it. But just looking at their roster from top to bottom, they're just not great. Like, they're good, but they're not a team where you see that talent and you say, hey, this is a top 1 or 2 or 3 teams in the NFC. They're they're in the middle of the pack of the top half of the NFC. And the top half of the NFC, there's a lot of teams that can jump up and down that group. Like, we could very much see the Vikings end up being the number 1 team in the NFC.
Off the cuff right now, 53-man roster. Who's the best in the NFC? Just roster. And I'm going to give my answer, and it's the Eagles.
I was going to say the Eagles,
and
too.
I know that's crazy, like, because I really do dislike them, but, like, I'm also not picking them for the Super Bowl because I just don't trust Wentz to be out there. And now you don't have Jolly St. Nick Foles to be out there to save you. You have Josh McCown, which does not have that meme magic that he had.
No, he doesn't.
I feel like they're number 1. I feel like the Falcons are number 2.
The Falcons
or at least top 4.
The Falcons have a bad rap for last year, but they had so many injuries, and it's like,
you hate to use it as an excuse, but they lost 2 key defenders in week 1.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah, and on top of that, it wasn't even like just 2 key defenders. One was Deion Jones, who was one of the top linebackers in the league.
Right.
The dude has like more interception returns for touchdowns by a linebacker than like anybody over the course of his career.
Right.
Like, so they have that. Like, they were losing safeties and defensive backs and stuff like that. Like, their defensive line is pretty good. Offensively speaking, they still have Mohamed Sanu. They still have Julio Jones. They still have Calvin Ridley. They still have Devontae Freeman. Ito Smith was good. They've just spent they spent most of their top pieces in the draft building on the offensive line. Like, that team is stacked.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of coaching.
Yeah.
Coaching is the issue there. So we'll see with them. Those, I would say Eagles and Falcons are definitely my top 2. I don't know who I'd put over the other right now, but they both have a lot of talent.
By the way, going to the AFC, I know that this is probably just my homerism, but I'm not saying they're not going to make the playoffs, but I don't think the Chiefs will be as electrifying as they were last year. And the main reason is, it's really hard to be that electrifying 2 years in a row.
Especially when you now have a known quantity at quarterback. Like, teams didn't really know what they had. Like, it's the...
He's
good.
He's once in a generation talented.
Yeah.
He's very talented. Like, the throws he makes are amazing. But it is a full team. It's 53 people on the team.
And on top of that, like, it's the RG3 effect, in my opinion. Teams didn't know what they were facing with RG3, because he could make every throw. He could run like crazy. You know, he was like the top weapon in the NFL at one point in time.
Yeah.
And then teams figured him out, and he wasn't so good. I don't think it's going to be a nasty regression like that,
because the talent's different. But people on ESPN today were like, will he get near 50 touchdowns again? And people were pretty much saying, I think he'll have more. And I'm like,
okay,
whoa, like,
prime
Brady, Manning, whoever did not do that twice in a row, you know. So I could see a 10-6, 11-5, I don't even want to say 9-7 because of their division, but I could see them being down. I could see them becoming a wild card team.
Yeah.
Real quickly, the team that is going to have the biggest rise from last year. I got to think about this one too, actually. Let's do this. So the first one off the top of my head is the Bucks. Just because they were so damn bad last year, right? Like, it's like there's only way to go.
The Bucks have so much around. The only thing that's their defense is so bad.
But, you know what? I want to say the Browns, but they were almost a playoff team last year.
They could have been. I would say the Bills.
Yeah,
that defense is really good.
That defense is really good. There's a reason I took them in fantasy.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the Raiders, by the way, for what it's worth.
The Raiders are not.
Please. Oh, the Cards. I mean...
Yeah, I mean, they have really nowhere to go but up.
Right. You know, another sleeper team, they're not going to make the playoffs, but another sleeper team that I could, like, see being less crappy is the Redskins. I know that sounds crazy, but,
possible.
like, they're going to throw Haskins out there at some point, and, like, maybe he might be able to throw something.
Yeah, he might be worth a damn.
Yeah. The first one off the top of my head, though, and I'm still keeping with it, is Bucks. Just because of Bruce. I know nothing about their team or their whatever, but just because I'm like, I trust Bruce Arians.
I think the Broncos are another one where they could be, like, people hate on Joe Flacco so much, but he was actually having a very good year last year.
Yeah.
Like, he was playing motivated, you could tell, and it's like, now he's on a team where his receivers aren't necessarily horrible, and he's got a good defense again, so that's good. So
yeah,
we'll see.
They do scare me. Jags too. Jags could be much better.
Yeah, it all depends on how Nick Foles plays, and he's never played well outside of Philly, so we'll see. But
so let's go division by division real quick. Let's start with the AFC. Let's pick the division winners, okay? AFC East, Pats.
Yeah, Pats.
Okay.
Yeah, easy.
I was worried there for a sec. AFC North. Everyone's gonna want me to say Browns, but I'm actually going to say Ravens.
I'm saying Steelers.
Steelers?
Yeah.
I guess I'm too much of a hater, dude. I don't know.
They're
good. Their defense is better than people give them credit for, honestly.
It's just on top of that, like, it's Ben Roethlisberger, and, like, I have a feeling that he's going to get some preferential treatment soon, and he's still a good quarterback. Like, so, like, the Browns are just, I have a feeling they're going to go over there, they're going to, like, self-destruct in a way because of all the personalities and all the hype behind them.
The first time they have a 2-game losing
streak. And the
streak.
Ravens are good, but at the same time, like, their offense was so unbelievably simplified last year that the Browns were the ones that made the defense to beat them, and the Chargers used it to perfection.
Right.
Like, and I think that now that you have that game tape out there on how to play Lamar Jackson in this zone read based offense, that teams are going to figure it out and get after him. That's what happened to Cam Newton his second year, I want to say. Like, teams figured out, oh, okay, they're going to make the zone read their base offense. We're going to beat the shit out of their quarterback then. So,
AFC West, Chargers. It's one of two, I'm guessing. Unless you're going to throw the Broncos out there.
I think it's going to be the Chargers too, but I would not be surprised to see the Colts make a surprise.
The Colts are in the AFC South. It's Raiders, Broncos, Chiefs, and Chargers.
That's right. Oh, yeah. No, Chiefs, 100%.
Chiefs, okay.
Yeah.
And I have Chargers just because I want to be a little bit different. So the hardest one is the AFC South.
AFC South, that's right.
Titans, Texans, Jags, and Colts.
I'd be inclined to go with the Texans, but
I'm oddly going to take... I might have even changed from what I said earlier because this is the hardest division. I'm going to say the Titans.
Yeah.
Their defense is pretty legit.
Yeah, they have the pieces to put together a solid run.
I do not believe in Marcus, but their defense is pretty dang good.
It is.
And then the two wild cards... clearly, I think we're either going to take the Chargers or Chiefs, depending on, right?
Yeah,
like that's almost
Chargers, Chiefs flip, I would assume.
Yeah,
and then
pencil them in, so that's the fifth spot.
I would say maybe the Jags is another wild card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to say I'm actually not going to say the Browns. I honestly don't. I like Breaker, but I don't think they're making the playoffs. I'll say the Steelers as 6.
Okay.
That could be legit. So, NFC East. Division winner.
Eagles.
Hold up. We them boys.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I just
making it rain 40 million.
Making it
Dakota,
rain 40 million. I do think that the Cowboys roster's pretty dang good. Now, if you said Wentz will play all 16 games, well then Eagles.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna say Cowboys. NFC North, not the Bears actually. I'm going to say the. I don't trust the Packers, because I don't trust the Vikings to do that. I don't know how you could pick the Vikings to win the damn division with Kirk Cousins as the quarterback, unless you want to.
I actually do think the Vikings could do it.
I'm such a hater.
It's tough with Kirk Cousins, but they have Dalvin Cook. They have great receivers.
Yeah.
Their defense is still really good.
Yeah.
And it's just tough because I don't know what's going to happen with the Packers, and I don't believe in Mitch Trubisky yet.
Yeah, no, so I do not either. NFC West, Seahawks.
I'm gonna go with the Rams.
Yeah,
I mean, Seattle's gonna be good.
Well, the only reason
they added Clowney, so that
the only reason I'm doing this, dude, is because of the 2 to 3 teams that always change every year.
That's true.
I look at it and I'm like, well, it's not going to be the X kind of thing. So.
Yeah, I mean, for me, if it's one or the other. It's either Seattle or the Rams, and whichever team doesn't get it is the wild card.
I don't think the Niners are there yet, and
no.
You're correct. And the NFC South, Falcons.
Yeah, Falcons are my pick too.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just too good, and I think that they're going into the season healthy enough right now.
Yeah.
On top of that, they got Dirk Cutter back instead of
they did.
Sark, and so I think that'll help them too.
Yeah.
So.
Wild cards, either the Rams or the Seahawks. I think we both agree on that.
I think it'll be Seattle Panthers as the wild cards.
I can see that. That'd be cool. And if they somehow end up playing in the divisional round, they always have pretty fun games.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say the other NFC North team that doesn't make it, between the Bears. No, the Bears made it last year. I'll say the stupid Vikings. They could work their way to a wild card.
They could.
AFC Championship game, Chiefs Pats.
Yeah,
I want to say Chargers Pats because I think it'd be fun. But
it would be fun.
The AFC, if you look at it top to bottom, they are very top heavy.
That was exactly
Chiefs.
what I was
The
say.
Chiefs and Pats are definitely the 2 best teams, with the Chargers being 2B. You know?
The only 2 teams that I could see other than the Patriots who can beat the Chiefs are the Ravens, because they have a nasty defense, and the Chargers because they have a nasty defense.
Yeah.
That's going to be what's going to require.
Dude, some team, and you can totally pick the Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl. I get it, but some earlier today I was reading have the Pats being the number 1 seed, right? And the Chiefs coming into Foxborough in the AFC Championship game and winning.
My God. Okay. All right, Andy Reid. Yeah.
Right. I'm like, okay. Do you know who their coach is?
Oh my God.
Did I think the Pats were going to lose when it was in Arrowhead? Yes. I was very nervous, but I would still be nervous, but I would also be it's in Foxborough. They just do their magic there. So
yeah.
And my team going to the Super Bowl, I have to do it. Pats.
I agree. Pats.
And NFC, I'm going to let you do yours first. NFC Championship game.
I think the NFC Championship will come down to the Eagles and the Falcons.
That would be very fun.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say the Cowboys and the Falcons. I'm not going to change that. Although I do desperately want it to be Eagles-Cowboys. Because that would be amazing.
Yeah.
That entire week would be incredible. And then the aftermath, because both fan bases are, quite frankly, pretty bad.
Yeah.
The aftermath would be amazing. And my Super Bowl is, and this would be, I would quit football.
Yeah.
Brady could retire, Belichick can retire. Cowboys-Pats.
Yeah.
Not because I believe the Cowboys is I want to make that clear. I don't think the Cowboys are the best team in the NFC, but I want to put it out into the world that it's something someone said, and that there's this small percentage that it can happen, because you put an idea into the world and it grows.
Yeah.
Cowboys, Pats, everyone loses their minds. You have America's team versus America's. They're the 2 most hated teams.
Yeah.
And the 2 probably most annoying number 2 and 3 most annoying fan bases behind the Eagles. It would be incredible, dude.
Yeah.
I want to say, in terms of it being a good game, literally, oh my God, the memes, the Falcons and the Pats. I couldn't even watch the game.
That was my pick, actually. I'm thinking the Falcons will go back against the Pats in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Another one I would like to see, which I don't know how, because he's a little not as amazing, would be Packers and Pats.
Yeah.
I know we had the Malcolm Butler interception against the Seahawks in 2014, but if it would have been Packers Pats, that would have been So good.
Yeah,
but...
we definitely deserve to see two of the best quarterbacks of all time to face each other. So
I think
would like that.
I would have even taken it for the Saints and the Pats because I do feel like the Pats would have beat the Saints. It wouldn't have been as embarrassing as the Rams, which, by the way, the Rams in that Super Bowl, we didn't talk about that, I don't think, played some amazing defense. Like, they had them all on their toes. It was just that Goff looked like a little high schooler out there.
He was lost.
He was just lost. So you have Falcons Pats, I have Cowboys Pats, although, make me bet on it, and I'm not going to choose Cowboys Pats. But that's what I want to get out there. Here's what I don't want to see, just real quick. I don't want to see the Jags play the Pats in the playoffs. Please no. I don't want to see the Eagles play the Pats in the Super Bowl. I'm not going to watch it. I'm just going to go into the woods and just...
Yeah, I don't think the Patriots have the firepower to keep up with the Eagles if that happens
again. Yeah. It's scary. It's like, we can't, and especially living in Eagles country, like, no. But again, I would I know this sounds crazy, like, I'm, you know how you say I would take the Panthers not winning if it meant the Saints got humiliated or whatever. Yep. I would take the Cowboys beating the Patriots. Like, I don't think it would happen. Don't get me wrong.
I know what you mean, though.
But just for the eternal butthurt of all Eagles fans, like, I would be like, I would need a couple days, but then I'd be like, good for them. Jerry Jones, and just like, what? Because that whole 2 weeks, all Eagles fans would be like, you guys got this, right? You'll beat the Cowboys, right? Because if you ever met an Eagles fan, they hate the Cowboys more than they like anything.
Yeah.
Like, how much do you love your wife? Not as much as they hate the Cowboys, right? Absolutely. Are they a bigger Eagles fan or Cowboys hater? They're a bigger Cowboys hater, right? So that would be, I would accept it. Like, I would just be like, okay.
I would be a fan of watching the Cowboys beat the Patriots, or even the Cowboys beating the Steelers. That'd be fun too.
Ooh, that'd be fun too. Yeah. Although I don't think that team's good enough.
No, they're not
quite that good enough to get there. So hey, that was we went a little bit over what we wanted, but that was super fun.
That's good.
It wasn't as long as we normally do. So
no, we've run over much longer. Before. We're good.
So thank you again, Brian, for being with us. We're gonna do this again when probably free agency starts next year.
Yeah.
Where we'll talk about that Cowboys Pats Super Bowl and how it was the biggest meme fest of all time. Like, literally, it would be
crying Jordans everywhere.
It would literally just be like. Dak getting hurt on like the second play or some nonsense like that. Every shot is just Jerry Jones just sitting there like,
are you kidding me?
Just the entire time. And then after that happens, the Pats just literally put 7 or 8 in the box, even if there's 3 wide receivers, because they're just like, beat us.
Go ahead.
Beat us.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Throw the ball to Zeke. We'll see what happens.
Please. Yeah. All right. Thank you again for being on. We will see you next time, and go football.
Go Panthers.